Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. And this is our first webinar of our Coffee and Copilot series. Trish is going to be doing an introduction to Microsoft 365 Copilot. And as always, we are recording this webinar and it'll be posted on our resources page on our website. And everybody will get a link to the recording as well. And if you have any questions, like I mentioned earlier, go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A box. You should have that feature at the bottom of your screen panel. If you have any issues along the way, or if you want to raise your hand for anything, go ahead and hit that raise hand feature. We'll go ahead and get the presentation started and do the Q&A at the end of the session. So now I'm going to kick it off to Trish to begin the presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Angie, and thanks everybody for joining us today. As Angie said, this is the first webinar in a series of Copilot webinars. All of you that have heard Microsoft say probably 2 million times the word Copilot. So what we thought we'd do is break down the different pieces of Copilot, the different functionality and things you need to think about. So for today, we're just going to do a higher level overview of an introduction to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So what is Copilot? It's an AI-powered productivity tool. It integrates with large language models, and it also, the one for M365 is going to integrate with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams. We're going to go through some examples as we go through this deck. And it's your wingman or your wingwoman, right? That's why it's called Copilot. It's not there to do your job for you, but it's there to assist you with your job and make your life a little bit easier every day. So a few stats from a recent Microsoft conference I went to. 77% of people would not give up their Copilot license. I'm one of those 77%. Don't tell my boss, but I would pay for it myself if my company didn't want to pay for it. 70% of people are more productive, and you'll see through some of the examples that I go through how it really can help jumpstart some of the different things that you're working on throughout the Microsoft stack. It makes it much quicker, 3.8 times, technically faster to catch up on meetings. You'll see a little demo later on, but sometimes you're 10 minutes late to a meeting. You can just ask Copilot, hey, catch me up on what I missed, those type of things. So, or if you can't attend, it gives beautiful meeting summaries afterwards. And then if for those companies that are using Copilot for service, they solve support issues much faster. And most companies are reporting a minimum of a 200% ROI on the cost of the license. I would honestly guess that that's a bit higher, but that's what it is so far that they're reporting. So my good friend Andrea that works here taught me this, which I thought was a really good way to look at this. You're going to see Copilot for, like Copilot for M365, Copilot for sales, Copilot for service. Those are all things, Copilots that you're going to pay for. When you see Copilot in, like Copilot in Business Central, that is fantastic functionality that's included already with Business Central. If you're using Dynamics Customer Engagement, built-in Copilot in there, that is all included. So what we are going to talk about today and walk through is a paid Copilot license. So I'll show you the differences and the different ways to use it. So Angie, can you launch our Q poll questions that we have real quick, please?
I've launched those, and so you should be able to see those and put your responses in.
Awesome. We'll give everybody a couple more seconds, and then Angie will close out the poll. I guess since I'm a panelist, I'm not allowed to vote. All right. And can you share the results with us, Angie?
Yes, they're still calculating.
Awesome. Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, it looks like it's done calculating. So the first question we had was, are you currently using Copilot for M365? And 34% said yes, 48 said no, 14% is I'm using a free version of Copilot, and 3% were unsure. I have no idea.
Sounds good. That works.
And
Thank you.
the second one was, what is your job role? And we have really close percentages. IT technical at 38% and accounting is 34. Executive is
Awesome.
17 and sales and marketing is 7 and operations warehouse is 3%.
Perfect. Thanks, Angie.
Mhm.
Awesome. We just wanted to get a feel for who was on here and who was actually using it. So the first thing I wanted to start with, and I did a lot of screen captures and videos because if I try to demo live, never seems to work out well. So where I typically start my day is at copilot.microsoft.com. When you start here, this is where you can see on the left, there's work in web. So web means you're going to search the internet for whatever topics you're asking Copilot about. Work means it will look at the internet, but it's also going to look through SharePoint, Teams, Outlook, OneDrive, any of your work applications and files. On the right-hand side, you'll see that I'm logged in with my Innovia email address. And then in the top right corner, you're going to see that little green shield. So we do have a whole webinar just dedicated to the security of Copilot, but I do high level want to talk a little bit about it. So when you're, everybody started out with ChatGPT and it was really cool and you got a lot of great information. The problem was it wasn't securing your data. So I think it was Samsung who put in a bunch of proprietary information into ChatGPT that then gets populated to the world because they were asking ChatGPT for some help in forming some different answers to some RFPs and that type of thing. So when you're using the paid Copilot license, all of the data, all the things you search for, everything is staying within your company's tenant. So no one else can see what you're looking at. It's not going out into the models for the world. It's learning what you like and how you like things, but it is not sharing that data back. So the first thing it does is it's using your Entra ID, which used to be called Azure Active Directory. It's going to authenticate you, but then it actually removes that ID from the chat data when you start a session. So it's not capturing all of that history. And then they don't retain the prompts or responses from an Entra ID. They're maintained for a short time for caching and that type of thing. But once you close the browser and the topics reset, Microsoft themselves discards the prompts and the responses. You might still see a little bit of history on the side, but that's not going back for Microsoft to track and see what you're talking about. Microsoft's not using any of this as a training set for the underlying large language model. It's all staying within your tenant. So the extent of my security knowledge, but I did want to share that unlike ChatGPT, this is staying within your company's environment. Also, that said, if I'm searching for something, it's not like Angie is going to see what I searched for. So my searches are my searches, her searches are her searches. So while it's staying within your company's tenant, you're not able to see what each other also searched. The last thing on this is, I mentioned when you do Copilot for work, it's going to look at SharePoint in your documents. It's only going to search documents you have permission to see. So I don't know, if our CFO had a file out there in Excel on SharePoint called company salaries, and he's the only one with access to that, whatever I'm searching for, that file isn't going to come up for me because Brian is the only one who has access to that document. So there is a lot of security in place, understandably so. And we have a whole webinar on security, so I'll let Chad fill y'all in on that, but just overall, your data is secure. So again, this is the web version of Copilot. I started a prompt down here. If we're going to go out to the web, hey, I'd like to create a 200 to 300 word blog on how to create reservations in Business Central, right? And I'm going to reference a Microsoft Learn page to say, hey, can you, use this page to help me write the blog? Then I'm going to hit submit. And beautifully, Copilot is going to write me an entire blog. and reference where it got the information, which I also think is really important. I think this is really helpful for a lot of us, whether you're in marketing, if you're in accounting, whatever it is. If you're trying to start a document or try to start writing something, let Copilot start that for you. And then what's really cool is you can iterate on that. So let me click this one. So now this is the blog that it just wrote for me, right? All right. Let me go backwards here. It asked me, I said, can you also explain the difference between specific and non-specific reservations? So let me hit play now so you guys can see that. All right. So it's building on the previous chat, right? First, I asked it to write me a blog. Then I asked it to do that. Now I'm asking it, hey, can you please combine the first thing you wrote and the second thing you wrote into a longer blog, say for 300 to 400 words. There we go. Now it's aggregating both of those and putting them together. Obviously, I'm still going to go out there and fact check it. I'm still going to change some of the copy, but something like that would have probably taken me a couple hours to go find all the relevant information, write it in a good way, that type of thing. Now it's all done for me. And so it'll even suggest other questions that you can ask, things you want to do to iterate on the copy. Mary on our team is going to do a whole webinar just on prompting Copilot, but a few things Microsoft has always said, and I just go along with it, you should be nice and say please. So I do that. I don't know, I don't want it to be mad at me, I guess. And then another thing to note on the bottom left here, where you see the little plus sign, that is new topic. So when I'm done with that blog and I want to work on something completely different, I'm going to hit new topic. Otherwise, it's going to continue to build on the information above. So that's just another key little feature that's part of Copilot, is iterating and making sure you do new topic. So that when I'm on the Copilot for web, you know, whatever I want to do, write a blog, summarize the latest jobs report, whatever I would like to do, you can just link it to a web page, a YouTube video, whatever it is, and you can start to get information there. Now, I showed you it said work in web, right? So this side is Copilot for work. This is where I mentioned, this is looking at your Outlook, your Teams, your SharePoint, all of the different Microsoft 365 stack. So it has some prompts already. Hey, can you help me track my tasks? Can you tell me what's important? When's my next meeting with Angie? Can you help create an agenda for this next meeting? All of this type of stuff. So I started to try and create videos for these, but it's really good and it picks up so much information that some of the information in my Outlook, you know, it's customer sensitive, so I couldn't share it. But, you know, I remember when I went on vacation for a week and I came back and I had a one-on-one with someone on my team, the first thing I did was say, hey, I have a one-on-one with Terry. What topics did she email me or send me Teams messages about last week? And it gave me a beautiful list of like, hey, here's everything Terry reached out to you while you were on vacation for, which made my one-on-one really easy. Angie, as I go on, are there any questions that you wanted me to answer now or?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay, perfect. All right. And we will go to the next one. So I did do one. What meetings do I have Friday morning? And or before noon, I guess, is what I asked it. So it's going to go search my calendar and tell me what meetings. I have 2 meetings Friday morning. I can start, I didn't do it through here, but if I wanted to, I could say, all right, my first one on Friday is with Terry. You know, I can start to ask it, what conversations have I had with Terry? Do I owe Terry any emails? That type of thing. And it'll just really help you plan your day and look at what you have going on. It's really wonderful to help, you know, keep you organized. If we had a sales meeting last week. Everybody was heads down. I asked it to summarize the emails that I received and help me understand which ones were the most important. It actually did a fairly good job of looking at my emails and helping me prioritize them. So it's a really nice quote assistant that you have at work that can help you prepare and be more efficient during that. So I thought I'd share a couple examples of just really easy wins for me for Copilot. Sometimes your boss might say like, hey, I need you to present to the team. You need to create a PowerPoint. And maybe you have a Word document with bullets that you want to talk about, or, whatever it is, some sort of file that has topics that you're going to need to present on. Maybe you're going to present to your team based on something that's out on the web, right? So I'll show you this example of PowerPoint. So for this one, I came into PowerPoint. There's a little Copilot icon since I have the license, and I just said, hey, can you please create me a presentation based on this page? The page I linked to is a Microsoft Learn page about some new collections functionality within Business Central. We always like to help our customers and our team understand what's new and coming. So instead of having to just sit down and read the entire page, this PowerPoint is going to hopefully give us some good high-level information that we can share with our customers and our team. So here you go. It just built me an entire PowerPoint presentation, including speaker notes, graphics, everything. So personally, there's a little more information that I would want. Like I probably don't care about how Copilot works in a presentation like this. So I would probably edit out some of the slides and I would make some of the slides my own. But just think about the time savings that just saved me from having to go out, read a Microsoft Learn page, go through, try to decide what's important, what's not, that type of thing. So again, huge productivity and time savings with something like this. Actually used it to start the presentation for today, and then I did edit it and make my own, but it's a great starting point, a good launching point. Again, it's like your assistant. So then, so let's think about Microsoft Word, right? You're going to go into Word and you need to create some sort of document. Maybe you need to create an agenda for a meeting. Maybe you want to summarize, someone sent you a really long Word document and you want to summarize it, right? All different things. You're going to log into Word and you're going to have this little Copilot icon right in Word. You're also going to have it in the top right corner. So for this particular one, I was like, all right, let's tell Copilot what I want you to do. I'd actually want you to write me a job description for an intern. There's a few things I would like that intern to focus on during their internship. So I'll give it a little bit. The more information you give Copilot, the better answer that you're going to get. And you speak to it just in natural language. It's not like you're Googling things. It's instead like you're talking to a friend and you're telling your friend exactly what information you would like. So I'll type all this in. Never type when other people are watching, right? There you go, and I'll click generate. And within seconds, now I have a job description, which looks just like our lovely job descriptions that our HR team writes, right? It's got responsibilities, qualifications, all of these different things, benefits, which are made up, of course, we'd have to edit those, and how to apply. So it basically gave me a template and a lot of good words to use, and I just have to come in here and edit and make it a little bit easier and fit my exact needs. But again, otherwise I would have had to go out, find a job description, look at a few different ones, see what I wanted to say. Instead, I just told Copilot, hey, here's the few things I'd like it to focus on. So another place, a great place to use Copilot is in Teams. I think I mentioned earlier, if you're late to a meeting, you can say, hey, catch me up on the meeting. or, hey, what are the to-do items from the meeting? I had a hard time creating my own examples for you just based on having too much sensitive data in there. Microsoft has a great walkthrough of the Teams one, so I'm just going to use their walkthrough. So here you go. I'm in my calendar. I'm in Teams. I'm going to join a meeting. So I joined a little bit late, right? So Copilot says, hey, do you want to recap the meeting so far? I'm going to click on that. And now you can see on the right-hand side, it's going to give me all the key topics that have already been discussed. Then I'm going to say, hey, give me some follow-up questions for this meeting. There you go. Now Copilot's going to tell you, what can you ask so during this meeting? It's pretty impressive how it goes through the meeting. It can understand context. It can, were people mad, happy? I was at a Microsoft conference and everybody was discussing the way they use Copilot, and one woman shared a story that she was working on a project and she felt like the project manager maybe didn't like her because he was always interrupting her. But as she started to pay attention, she noticed he was interrupting everybody. So she, after the next meeting was recorded, said, hey, Copilot, who interrupts the most during the meeting? And it shared, of course, that it was that project manager. And it gave like 6 examples. So she called him and she said, I thought it was just me, but, this is what I noticed. And he had said to her, can you give me some examples? And she said, of course. And she gave her a list from the Copilot. So kind of fun that, Copilot's even smart enough to tell you who's interrupting the meeting. So when you're done, you would just hit leave. And then you can see when you go back to the Teams chat, there's a little button up here that's going to say recap. This is going to give you all the meeting notes and follow-up tasks. Just a side note, earlier I mentioned there's something called Copilot for Sales. So if you're using the Dynamics CRM customer engagement, it's a separate Copilot license. But one of the things it will actually do is these follow-up tasks, it'll let you create them right in CRM. So here we go. If we click on the meeting notes, it'll give you those. It shows you mentions, like when was I mentioned during the call? So Lee was mentioned 2 different times. It also has a transcript of the call. So you can scroll down and see, all the different transcripts if you had any interest in seeing that. And then when you click Copilot again, on the right-hand side, it's going to show you the different things that you asked already during the meeting. And then you can ask it other questions because it was recorded. Hey, what decisions were made during the meeting, right? And you hit enter. There you go. Here's the different decisions that were made during the meeting. And then how about action items? These are all the action items from the meeting. So that's a highlight. We have a whole webinar on Teams for Copilot. So I don't want to steal Andrea's thunder, but that's just a quick overview of the different features of Copilot in Teams. So just, an overall, how can Copilot make you more productive? It can help you automate those repetitive tasks, scheduling meetings, creating reports. It allows you to have a little more free time for important tasks and really helps you boost your productivity. It helps you reduce errors. It can do spell and grammar checks. It provides real-time feedback and intelligent suggestions. And it can really improve the quality of work and productivity. As we saw, it'll help you get that head start instead of you sitting there thinking, oh, what am I going to do for my slides? How am I going to start this Word document? That type of thing. And it'll help you speed up document creation, as we saw. Also, the one thing that I didn't want to summarize my emails live here, but for instance, our support team, sometimes our support manager and I will get an email forwarded, and it's 22 back and forths on a support ticket, right? And they'll say, hey, can you guys look into this, right? well, Taylor, our support manager, can just hit summarize email, and then it'll give him a little bulleted list of all of the back and forth. So he's not reading 22 emails. Same for me, if somebody says, hey, we need this escalated, I can just hit summarize email and get a real high level of, okay, these are the things that I need to focus on. And then, so Copilot helps you be more creative, right? It'll suggest alternate wording. So maybe it wrote you a job description and you didn't really like it. You could say, I'd like this to be more formal, or I'd like this to be more fun. It can help you with different formatting. You know, sometimes it'll give me a bulleted list and I'll say, instead of a bulleted list, can you please change that to 3 paragraphs? And it'll rewrite the bulleted list into 3 paragraphs. And then the other one that I haven't played with as much, so I didn't go into detail in here, but I've started to play with it, is in Excel. I'm terrible at Excel, but I've started to learn how to analyze data, right? So maybe I'll export all of our opportunities in CRM to Excel, and then I can have it help me, you know, who has the largest opportunities, when are the opportunities closing, that type of thing. I can just, in plain language, ask Excel the different questions. So the big question, how much does this cost? Copilot licenses are only sold on an annual basis, so you can't pay them monthly, but it is $360 per user per year. I would venture to say, for me, myself, it paid for itself probably in the first 2 weeks, that annual cost, as much as I use it. I literally use it for everything. So, you know, many of our customers are starting maybe 5 to 10 licenses and they're going to do a pilot group. Some people are jumping all in. I think either works. At Innovia, we started with like leadership team and some managers having licenses, and then we quickly switched to whoever wanted one could have one. Internally at Innovia, we have an AI user group, which is every other week, where our entire team is invited to a call to share ideas and thoughts on what did they do this week, how did they use it, that type of thing. So it's a great tool, and we only had 30 minutes, so I have 2 minutes left. So are there any questions about anything that we've talked about today?
Thanks, Trish. Yes, we do have a couple that have come through. So there's some discrepancy on the cost. The Microsoft web page shows the license at $53.30 per user per month.
The Microsoft page?
The Microsoft web page shows the license at $53.30 per user per month. Is that something completely different?
It could be. So what I was talking about was the Copilot license for M365. There's Copilot Studio. So here, let me. So Mike, what you might be seeing is the $39 per user per month. Let me. 30. So 30, yeah. So Microsoft's always going to break it out for you in what they charge per month. But unfortunately, at the moment, they only sell it annually. So $30 a month, which is $360 a year. They haven't released a monthly license yet. They only have an annual license. So they're always going to show it to you that. Like if you go look at Business Central Essentials licensing, Microsoft shows it as $70 a user a month. It is only that price when you buy it annually. So I see that I know that is how they show their pricing, but they sell the subscription as an annual. I just downloaded the price list before we came to double check that. So right now, we can do it as an annual license.
Okay. And then
Any other questions?
Yes. And then
Okay.
is the work web toggle on the top left of copilot.microsoft.com only there when a license is applied? One registrant
Correct.
only sees Copilot/notebook.
Yep, exactly. So you see up here that I'm logged in as me with the green commercial data protection, and I have work in web. That's how you know that I'm using the paid license. If I was just using my Gmail account, I would only see web and notebook. Any other questions?
Yes. We have another one. Do you feel that this is more useful for users who are inexperienced with their apps or more power user types?
I honestly think it's good for everybody, quite honestly. So prior to our larger user group at Innovia, we put together a smaller group of about 10 people to really focus on our usage, and we tried to get all different people. There were some people in the group like Andrea Hall and myself who have already been using Copilot for as long as we've been allowed. And there was some newer people to the group that didn't even know what Copilot was, basically, right? Just 4 weeks in, some of those people who didn't even know what Copilot were so excited to show us like how they used it and what they did. And they were thinking of bigger ways that we could share it throughout the company with the larger group. So I think it's honestly great for either. If you're a really experienced power user of the app, you'll probably find better ways to use it quicker, right? Whereas if you're newer, sometimes it'll just help you get better with the app.
All right. If anybody else has any further questions, please get those typed into the questions box and we can get them addressed. Otherwise, we will go ahead and wrap.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for attending. Like we mentioned, we do have a few other ones coming up, so please feel free to sign up for those if you haven't already. If you are interested in getting a Copilot license, you can reach out to your Innovia customer success manager and they can help you do that.
All right. Well, thank you, Trish, for the presentation today
Thanks.
and for everyone on today's webinar, or if you're watching on the demand, we thank you for taking the time out to join us. Someone asked, can Copilot help us be as awesome as Trish?
Oh.
All
I'll help
right.
you be way more cool than I am.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Be sure
Awesome.
to check out our resources page for all of our upcoming events and content, and that's innovia.com/resources. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Innovia webinar.
Thanks. Bye-bye.